we're just a few minutes, a little bit off of 3 o'clock today.
Yes, we're pretty close, though.
Yeah, we
Yes.
had a little bit of technical difficulty, and but we had faith.
We had faith that it would all come together.
All come together, and so here
that
we
we
are.
would be able to join you on a Thursday.
And we made it.
We
made it.
did. We did.
Yeah. So today was day 2 of back treatment.
Yes.
At the
you had
doctor.
another treatment.
Yep. And this is going to take. I'm playing the long game.
So they're not expecting like just a quick twist and then
feel better.
you're done.
I'm not expecting that.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
other words, I still have uncomfortableness in my lower back.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while now.
Yeah. So, but I got a course of treatment. We're going to run with it. The doc even and tomorrow at later in the day, if you all want to assemble at Pueblo Imaging with me and hold
Okay.
vigil, I'm going to have an MRI.
Yeah, we'll be
So
there.
if you'd like to just meet me down at the one on Green Valley Parkway,
Absolutely.
just all hang out in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Because I don't
yeah.
think they'll allow a big group to go back.
Well, if they allow us to go back, we'll all go back.
I'll go
with
back.
You.
So when I made,
Yeah.
so I got approved to do this. So the doctor wants imaging, right? And to me, it's no big deal. You know, you just go sit and let them take pictures of your back, right?
Yeah.
So, but I was on the phone with the reception appointment people, you know, like their call desk, and I was like, "You have me, because I had a piece of paper." I said, on the paper it says you want me to go to the location on South Rainbow. And I
okay.
said, could I possibly do Pueblo Imaging on Green Valley Parkway? I mean, this side
Yeah,
of town. I live on this side of town.
Rainbow
you know.
just is.
Yeah, right.
You get out to Rainbow every once in a while, but like
But if you live there, it's fine, right?
it's fine. But yes.
But for us folks who live in Hendertucky, it's a little bit of a.
we don't like to cross the city.
No, we don't want to leave the city,
No.
the city limits.
Who would want to do that?
Right. So I asked. So I said, can I do this? I mean, I'm assuming they have an MRI at
Yes.
Green Valley. And she gets quiet for a second and she says, it's a closed MRI. Is that okay?
Really? Was that okay?
Yeah, I don't have any fear of being in a tube. I get, and I'm not making light of you, but there's some people who do not want to be in a tube.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people.
You.
I don't like
actually prefer it.
I don't like being in a tube at 35,000 feet traveling at 500 miles an hour. I don't
Okay.
like that tube. I still do it.
That's right. I mean,
Yeah.
you still do it plenty.
Yeah. It's just not my favorite thing to do.
But yeah, I remember you said that early on, and which it never really registered for me because I think when we first met, you were flying
San
every
Francisco
weekend to
and-
come down here.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I heard, oh, Pastor Ben doesn't love flying.
Yeah.
And then I met you, and you were flying every week.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know what I heard, but
It can't be
it
that.
can't be that.
Yeah.
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 But it's not your favorite thing.
I don't. I like a window seat. I will not sleep for the entire duration of the flight because my body won't relax. I don't.
Not your.
It's just not my
just not
thing.
your thing. But an MRI tube, love it.
Yeah, I'm at ground
Yes.
level.
Yes.
I'm
That's
happy.
That's
so
great.
so tomorrow I'll get in a tube and they'll take some pictures of my back. So,
We'll see what happens.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was I think I said the other day they already took X-rays. I got to see those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a spine.
That's good.
Yeah, right. So that was good to see, and it's not as curved as they want it to be. I guess every spine should have a little bit of curve to
Not
it.
yours.
Not mine.
You don't need one.
Straight as an arrow.
Straight as an arrow. That's
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
It feels like I'm being stabbed with one too. So, but yeah, so we're continuing on in the process of just trying to find some relief where it's just
I
not
hope so.
constantly
Yeah,
aching. It's not
absolutely.
excruciating, but it just
No, but when it lingers on
It's always
like
there.
that, yeah, for
but
sure.
but I still trying to get to the gym every day and do those things too and try to take care of myself.
So they're recommending to stay active.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know,
There's no prohibition. I mean, I think in some ways they're using the hee-haw doctor's appointment method. You know, where you go into the doctor and it says, You know, the guy says to the doctor, well, it hurts when I do X. And the doctor says, well, then don't do that. You know, so that's the hee-haw method of practicing medicine. And I think
No.
that's what they're working on.
Sometimes you go back to the basics.
If it
That's-
hurts, don't do it.
If it hurts, it's probably not a
So,
great idea.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. And
Okay.
we're getting ready this weekend. We are hosting, or we are the facility for the spiritual treat organization called Via de Cristo.
I was going to say, it's pretty busy in
Yeah,
the church
they're-
right now.
they're
We've got all
getting-
kinds of people that
Getting things ready.
Yeah, bunch of familiar faces.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people who have been through Via de Cristo, and certainly the retreat means a lot to so many.
Yep. So we're hosting the meetings, but not the overnight part.
Right.
So, and here's an odd thing, and if you're newer to the church or you've never tuned in before, as you know, we've been on a journey with air conditioning, and because we have some old systems and
We've been on that journey for as long as I have known this
Yeah.
church. Yeah.
but we're making some progress. You know,
Yeah,
we've done
yeah.
some.
Oh,
So
for
we
sure.
we have a new issue, which is the antithesis to everything that we've been working on. Listen to this.
All right, I'm listening.
We have 2 air conditioning units in the sanctuary.
Yes, I knew that.
Yeah. One of them, the wiring has gotten a little goofy. Okay. So when it's one of the units, when it cycles on, it just keeps going
And going and going.
and going and going. So the other night, one of our custodians came in to check the air conditioning, and it was like 68 in the sanctuary.
Really?
And I'm like, yeah, it shouldn't be 68. So we actually shut it off because we don't want it running all night. It's not good for the system. It's not good for wear and tear.
Yeah.
So we literally just shut it down. And thankfully, it's a little bit cooler now. I mean, relatively speaking.
yeah.
And
I've noticed. Yeah, this is a
it
nice.
is different, right?
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
different. And then last night, same thing again, but we isolated it to, we know which unit it is. So we left one unit on to keep a median temperature in there. But we have one that sometimes cycles off and sometimes just is like running a marathon, which when I say it's the antithesis of kind of everything else we've been dealing with, because most of the time it's we don't have air conditioning and it's hot, not, oh my gosh, it's too cold. That's
Yeah.
a new one on me. So we are working on getting our AC folks to come out and get that wiring figured out for us.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
That is super fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Overcooling. That's a concept.
Overcooling sanctuary.
Yeah, right.
Here at CLC.
Yep. I mean, 68 certainly does not bug me. It may be a little chilly for others,
But
but I have extra
times.
insulation. I mean, come on.
Well,
I
you know what?
I needed a little cool, and I'm under those theater lights, right?
I will say I'm super excited looking at the weather, seeing some of those 68-degree lows.
Nights, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Even
excited
a
for
day
that.
in the 80s, which
would be phenomenal.
I will believe it when I experience
Yes.
it. But I feel like
Probably
I'm
get a
being,
day in the 80s and air quality that's up in the 300s or something.
right. Yeah.
That would
Yes.
be great.
Yesterday was
Yeah.
close to that.
I know.
I mean, it was wild when I saw the sun.
I know. Just
I-
this
and it was, some of you saw it as a ball
the
of
sign
red.
of the apocalypse
Yeah.
out there.
and I posted on Facebook for folks who have breathing issues, and I was like, I have not seen a sun like that since we were on the edge of the Santa Rosa fires in Northern California a number of years
Yeah.
ago, when we were still in Sausalito, when the Santa Rosa fires, which were about 45 minutes north of us, started. The night before, we had the most brilliant sunset, beautiful. We went out walking because we lived in the national
Yeah.
park, and it was the beautiful sunset. And didn't put it together that the reason it was beautiful is that there was so much particulate matter in the air. You just enjoyed the majesty of the sun setting over the ocean because we had that view every day.
Right.
And in the middle of the night, it's like 2 a.m. Rachel and I both wake up at the same time, and she leans over and she's like, "Do you smell smoke?" And I'm like, "Uh-huh." So we both jump out of bed.
Did you have AC in
No,
your?
no,
You
this
just
was-
always have windows open.
It
Yeah.
was almost constantly 65 because we were
Yeah.
by the ocean, and it was a 120-year-old home.
Yeah.
So we jump out of bed, we go through the entire house, And then we go outside and do a perimeter check because we thought maybe the house was on fire.
Yeah.
That's how heavy it was. And so the house we were in and the house next to us was not on fire. And then, because, it's like 2 a.m, you don't think immediately to get on your phone.
Right.
So we finally get on our phone, and massive fires
Wow.
up in Santa Rosa, up in wine country, which is not far from us. And then it was the next day in the morning that you saw that sun that looked like what you saw the other day. And then we started getting ash on our cars. And then PG&E, which is the power company, shut off all the electricity out in the national park because they didn't want the electrical lines to spark
Yeah.
more fires. So we were out of electricity and breathing smoke
With ash raining.
with
down.
ash raining down for several. We were actually even in the house wearing masks. It was so because the air quality index, the AQI, which we were just mentioning, was actually off the charts. Like they have like this range from 0 to like 400 or 500, and we were beyond the highest.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it was.
Ugh.
And as inconvenienced as I was, it was nothing compared to what people north of us were experiencing. I mean, it was really devastating fires. So, yeah.
Wow.
So yesterday kind of reminded me of being in and amongst that. And,
Not ideal.
and as soon as we got power back on, the first thing I bought was one of those HEPA filter air purifiers. And we brought it with us here. So yesterday it was on at full power in the house while we were gone to keep the air clean and circulating.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Picture that Cooper took of the fire.
Oh, let's go to that. Let's take a look at this picture. And where is this? Is this?
This is in Orange County.
So this is the
So
fire
the
in
fire in Orange County.
L.A.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Orange County.
Wow.
And so
30,000 feet.
from 35,000
Yeah.
feet,
One of our tech guys grabbed that. Wow.
that is something else. And that's the wind that was coming from that direction over the last couple of days. And I did see a picture of the San Gabriel Mountains from L.A. in a time lapse showing some of that fire. It's just horrific. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. We
Wow.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Just,
thanks
oof.
for sharing that. Whoa.
Yeah. And so lots of this and that going on, right?
Lots of this and that.
I-
That is right. Wow.
Yeah. And in your house, I saw on Facebook, Kira just took another picture.
Yeah,
of
it turns out
herself.
she's pregnant.
I was surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. We just had to let everybody know.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like soon.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that that mid-October might seem a little
I
Too
think it
far
might
out
be
before
early October.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
We shall see, though.
what? Yep. We're starting a baby betting pool here at church, and so it's like a 50-50 raffle. So
Yeah, there you
no,
go.
I'm kidding. We're not
Yeah.
doing that. So
We'll take your raffle ticket at the imaging. station tonight.
We'll be selling those down at Pueblo Imaging tomorrow at 4:00. So, so we have a great song for you today, and this was from our 11 o'clock service on Sunday, and this. I was telling Phil the other day or today. I was like, I don't know if we've done this before, this song, but this song just hit me on Sunday.
It's a powerful song.
It's a
It
really powerful
is.
song. And so I think you'll find it meaningful. And so let's take a listen and we'll talk about it when we come back.
God of creation, there at the start. so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sun of all our praises still falls shy, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride.
That is a really good song.
So
Yeah.
Hillsong United, and from 2017 off of an album called Wonder, and it actually hit the Christian music charts, and you can see why.
Yeah.
Like it came out, and the song is called "So Will I," and then in parentheses 100 billion times. You know, just praise upon praise. And this is only a portion of the song because it's actually a very long song. It's like almost 7 minutes long, and we did a shorter version of that. But it really tracks as God as an artisan, an artist, and beginning with creation all the way through salvation.
I was going to say there's a narrative to
There's a
this,
narrative
this
in this.
entire musical piece. Yeah.
Along with that refrain, and as creation praises,
So will I.
so will I. And so really think it's just an amazing, beautiful, well, I guess every song, at least Christian or God-related, is really a tribute to God. And I think this is a wonderful tribute to God. And when I'm thinking about creation and creation crying out, first place I think of is Palm Sunday. And in Palm Sunday, if you know the story, Jesus is coming to Jerusalem. It is the day or the first day of Passover, and people are out in the fields picking the Passover lambs, and Jesus shows up, and there is kind of this impromptu parade and excitement and expectation. People have been talking about Jesus as this miracle worker, potential future king of Israel. Like there's all this expectation, and when they see him, there's kind of mayhem and excitement.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
want to get rid of Rome as an occupying force. So there's some of this. Passover, the meal is remembering being freed from slavery in Egypt.
So much going
all
on
this
in the
imagery.
minds of the people. There's imagery. There's this king coming in, and what does this mean?
And Jesus could be this liberator, all of this stuff. Of course, that's not Jesus' agenda. This is what people are putting on him. And I just want to recap from the Gospel of Luke. This is what happens. When he came near the place where the road goes down to the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began to joyfully praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they've seen. And what they chant is the Hallel, one of the Hallel Psalms. So it's very well known, memorized. People know this. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. So people are chanting this beautiful psalm. The Pharisees get wind of this, the teachers of the law. They're not happy that somebody is saying and pointing to Jesus and saying, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. They're like, knock that stuff off. I mean, literally, teacher, rebuke yourself. Tell them to shut it, right?
Yes. We don't want trouble.
We don't want trouble.
They had a good thing going for them. They don't want to mess it up. Yeah. Keep it quiet.
I tell you, Jesus replied, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. And I was thinking about those words, and of course, it sounds metaphorical. You know, that nothing can stop this is what Jesus is saying. But bear with me for a second. If you are not just a religious person, but a spiritual person, if you can move, what I talked about on Sunday, move from just truth into spirit for a moment, because true worshipers worship the Father in spirit and truth. So move with me into the spirit for just a second. In that moment, the power of God was being made manifest in that praise. The power of the Spirit was being manifest in that moment. And Jesus was saying, look, I am being, without saying it, he's like, I'm being glorified. And if the people stop, creation will continue that praise in recognition of who I am. I love that.
Yeah.
And so this is a spirit moment that can easily be dismissed as narrative when reading it from Scripture in a very dry sort of way. But the moment, I believe, was spiritually palpable. People could feel the presence of God in a very real way in that moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Jesus was acknowledging that. And he's like, okay, if I tell them to be quiet, be ready for even creation to cry out.
Right.
And so I think it was a very spirit-filled interchange.
Right, and it's something that Jesus sees, and that creation does. Like we see that in the Psalms and
Yeah.
in so many of those verses. You know, like look to the mountains, look to the
Yeah.
all this, and just let creation sing and let the creation rejoice.
That's exactly right. And you know, when I was thinking, when you think about that, the other day, just yesterday, it was not only do I not like the smoke in the air, nobody does,
Right.
but not being able to see the mountains was disappointing.
Yeah.
It's one of the few things, not one of the few things, it's one of the things I enjoy every day is being able to see the mountains
Yeah.
here in the valley. And although we got 2.3 million people living in the valley, what I love about the valley is it is not so big that you can't see mountains from almost any place that you're at in the valley.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been to Phoenix and compared to that, that valley is so much bigger and wider, and you don't always see mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But here you have, Sunrise or Frenchman's to the east,
Yes.
and the Sheep Gate to the north, and the Spring to the west, and the Black Mountains to the south, right?
yeah,
And
and
and I'm always, so I'm driving to church and I see the Sheep Gate, and then I make the turn on Green Valley Parkway, which becomes Patrick, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the Spring Mountains, And when I'm up on the hill by sunset, I can see sunrise,
Absolutely.
and then
Yeah,
going
it
home, I
is-
see
it
the
is
mountains.
everywhere.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so to see that majesty and that beauty is really something I look forward to. And I think here's the thing is when you talk about spirit and truth, back to truth for a minute, you got to know who to give thanks to. So you got to get that straightened out in your head, right? So since I have the truth part figured out, I know who to give thanks to for that wonderful creation we get to examine. And Paul says really the same thing. If you jump to Romans chapter 1, he actually calls that whole thing out about understanding who it is that's responsible for all this.
Yeah, yeah. So as you said, Romans chapter 1. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse.
So Paul, he just throws that out there. He's like, look, the existence of creation should be proof enough that there is, in quotes, a God out there.
It points to something.
It points to something bigger. And, and a few years ago, we did a sermon series called Life's Biggest Questions.
That's right. Goes back a little ways.
Yeah, I think it was a couple years ago. And one of them I tackled was creation. And even astrophysicists can only go back so far, and they say, well, there was a big bang, but all of them say, but something caused that to happen. And that's as far as they can go.
And you just
That's
left.
as far as science can go. But they go, but there had to have been a catalyst. All of them say it. There had to have been a catalyst. We just don't know what that catalyst was.
Right.
And so when we think about in the beginning, there was God, right? And the first thing that God created was light. And even though Genesis is not a science book, we
It's a
talked about
poem.
this, it's a poem.
Yeah.
It's interesting to note that in the Big Bang, the very first thing that happened was light, the explosion, right?
Yeah.
And yet Paul says, look, if you're looking at all this and you think it's random, well, that's too bad.
You can also open your heart to this
To
and really
that.
experience God.
So all of you who are watching right now, think about what is your favorite place in nature. What's your favorite place? What's the place where tranquility and serenity, awe, and a glimpse of the majesty of God, where is that for you? I know you've talked about being in the mountains when
Yeah.
you're up camping.
Yeah.
Yep. You know,
Thinking
when-
of some of those places as you talk like
Right.
that. Yeah.
me being on a lake in northern Wisconsin,
Also.
and
very nice.
yep, just in a calm day with the water just lapping up against the boat, and surrounded by trees and the beauty of nature,
Yeah.
or being at the ocean and having the sound of the breakers, the waves rolling in and the crashing. There's a majesty to that. And for me, when I'm at the ocean, it's often, this is way bigger than me. There's a smallness when confronted with the power of the ocean and the power of that creative force and the tides and and in that moment,
Yeah.
it kind of puts me in my place in the universe. And I also can look to God and say, even though I'm a small part of this, I belong to you. So there's comfort in that too. And I love that Paul's like, look, the evidence is all around you. You have to open your eyes and see. And so the song is talking about, that creation, that God, created all of this, and that we should lift our praise to the one who created us. I mean, even as individuals, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, right?
Yeah, taking time to appreciate that beauty around us and that the gifts that we have and but living in that.
And living in that. And, I mean, even when I go and exercise early in the morning, the gym that I use in my condo complex is all windows.
Okay.
And so often I'm able to look out north, because that's where one set of the windows where I exercise, and I look at the mountains as I'm exercising. So even in the morning, I'm taking in a little bit of nature,
Very cool.
and I
Yeah.
and I give thanks for it, and really really appreciate it. But there's this line in this song. Well, before I get there, I want to go back for a second. Just talking about creation. I love the moment when St. Paul is in Athens, Greece.
Okay. Yes.
So he's in
Yes.
Athens, Greece, right?
He's walking through, seeing all their gods,
Their gods,
and,
and
their,
he's
pagan idols,
and he's in the
lingering around.
Acropolis in an area where there's public speaking, and he's kind of taken in the sights of Greece. But then he goes to kind of give a public address, which was a common thing that strangers come and lecture and talk, right? And he says to him, he's like, men of Greece, because it was men in that group, and he's like, I can see how crazy religious you guys are. He's like, you have gods.
You have gods for everything. You have little idols here created for this, that, and the
Right.
other.
He said, and matter of fact, you guys are so religious that you're worried that you might have overlooked a god, and so you even have a shrine to the unknown God, just in case.
Just in case.
And then he says, let me tell you about the unknown God. And he goes on to start talking about the God of Israel, who created it all, and that this God, doesn't need a temple per se, that God doesn't need to be served by us, but quite the contrary, that we have a God who serves humans. And then he moves on to Jesus and talking about the resurrection. But he talked about the God of creation who created really for us, created us and created all of this for us to be in awe of it, as opposed to the common understanding back then was, well, we have to have a shrine and we have to have a temple and we have to serve this God to keep this God placated or happy. And he flips the script and he's like, no, we have a God who does things for us. And what a beautiful thought, because so much of religion itself is people kind of chasing after God. And in Christianity, it's about relationship and what God does for us. And it's so different. So I love that imagery.
That's wonderful.
But here, I'm going to read this line of the song, So Will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. So in this song, they're talking about that everything that God does has purpose. And it takes me back to one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, Isaiah 55.
Isaiah 55?
Yep. Listen to this. I love this. As it relates to God doesn't speak in vain or without purpose. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so it is with God's word that goes out from his mouth, and it will not return empty, but will accomplish, and this is what God says, but it'll accomplish what I desire and will achieve the purpose for which I've sent it. So there's two things in here that I find completely amazing. One is 700 years before Jesus, God illustrates the water cycle.
Okay.
Think about
yes,
this.
Yes,
This
using
is
that as
long
an
before
illustration.
meteorology
Yeah.
and science and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
He's like, water comes down from heaven, it waters, and then it returns, rain, evaporation,
Yeah.
like he illustrates the water cycle in
But
Isaiah 55.
it goes to that paying attention too, not
Yeah.
just like rushing through life, but like looking at the world around us and
Yeah.
paying attention to the
cycle.
the water, the rainbow, all of it.
All of it. So, I love the fact that God's speaking into this and saying, just the way that the water cycle works, so my word comes down
Yeah.
with intention, and it will accomplish whatever I've put my word to. And I can't help but think that when we think about us being the children of God, being instruments and servants, that we have this opportunity to speak the word of God to a neighbor, to a friend, to a relative, to an acquaintance, to a fellow church member, to somebody at the stores. And every time we do that, God says, I'm going to do something with that. I love that. God's like, just so you know, when you dare to speak a religious, spiritual word, it will accomplish what I ordain it to do.
That is such a
There's power
powerful
there,
line. It is
right?
such a powerful line that I don't think we give it credit for. But yeah, just looking at, hey, this is what God does in nature, and this is what God is doing with you.
Yep.
Like
and,
we don't.
and through us.
Yeah.
And so when you think about speaking God's word and you're sometimes nervous about it, you're unsure, should I say something? Should I do it? Because God has a plan for that word and does not let it return to him empty.
Beautiful.
And I see that all the time in preaching is I have no idea when I'm preaching a message like who it's for. I mean, yes, it's for everybody, but I also know in the back of my heart, in the back of my mind, that this is geared for somebody very specific. Because I've seen it too many times where after preaching, someone will say, how did you know? That's what I'm needed to hear. And I say, I don't, but God does. And so God's word never returns empty. And I've seen that time and time again in my life, but it's not reserved for the pastors. It's
Yeah,
for
it's a
you.
verse for everybody.
It's a verse for everybody. So when you think about the praise that you can lift up, you can put that onto somebody where they also can praise because they are comforted, they are strengthened, they are renewed by the words you speak that come from God. So trust in that and don't be shy about it.
Great.
Yeah. So we're glad you've joined us today. And guess what?
What's that?
We have somebody in the house today.
Yes, we have Philip back with us.
So
huh?
rather than going to a cold, hard
Abrupt,
ending,
fierce.
yep. Instead, we are blessed to have Philip back, first of all. Secondly, because I understand that in our closing, you have a moment to meditate upon the words spoken and the music played, which also has a message because it never returns empty. So I am happy to say, Philip, will you take it away?